My goodness, it's the Practical Prayer Podcast on New Thought Media Network. I'm Bill. There's Carol. Having navigated the slalom course of technology. You said that AOL was down today?
Yeah, it started, I guess, about 9 o'clock saying, the wheel was spinning. And I don't do AOL usually before 11, except for, I got a strict thing, but except for on Mondays to make sure I got everything is working in plenty of time for the podcast. And it kept saying, we got a problem. And I'm thinking, fix the problem.
Fix it.
Like,
Make it
yeah,
work.
I'm
Get it
not the
better.
only person that's affected here. Y'all got some really deep people that need this working, so get on it.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. And AOL means that you've been on this electronic communications kick for a while, because you probably started with one of those CDs they sent you in the mail, didn't you?
Probably it was when it first when the whole thing first started, and I got all these other email accounts, but this is the one that it's my everything dumps into it. So,
I
you know.
understand.
And listen
And
to this. You sent me the link while I'm typing in the link, right? And I said, if I look at this, I'm going to be messed up and type the wrong thing in. Oh, and I'm thinking, I want this to work. I got to focus. I got to focus. So yeah, it's all part of the story, I suppose.
so let's do a Practical Prayer Podcast episode. By the way, I have to say hello to the folks whose technology is working, who are
Yeah.
joining us on New Thought Media Network. I'm, excuse me, I'm Bill Marchiony here in Philadelphia. There's Carol Lawrence. She's over at the coast of New Jersey, near where the United States touches the Atlantic Ocean. And we're going to record an episode, actually episode number 224 of the Practical Prayer Podcast. And that's going to happen real soon now. And you guys are the live studio audience, or interested, because the idea was to invite people in while we do the recording, and then of course you can watch the recording session on New Thought Media Network later. So there is the recorded studio audience, and then later there's going to be the podcast audience who hear the finished produced podcast out in podcast land later. So now that you're thoroughly confused, hello.
All I got to do is show up.
You get to show up. The folks who are listening and watching live get to show up and participate or not. So if you put a comment into your social media comments, we will see it in real time and be able to respond to it. If you are watching the recording, which I understand a lot of people favor, you can go to the website, bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, and there's a section for Practical Prayer Podcast and a button there where you can make the same sort of comments, and we will watch those comments offline or nearline. Lynn is on social media, just saying hey with a little thumbs up on the Facebook, like when you say the Facebook, as though there's only one. And it's good to have you guys with us. And sometimes, actually, the plan is that Carol and I get together and chat for a little while beforehand and talk about what we're going to talk about. And today, as you have probably inferred from the conversation, we spent the pre-programmed time hoping that AOL was going to work and manually typing a machine-readable URL into your browser so that you get into the recording platform. As annoying as that is, there were no tolls like there would be on the Atlantic City Expressway.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? I like to look at things like this. Okay. So how can I make sure this doesn't happen again? So every time now, when you send me the link, I'll just copy it and put it in Word so that if something goes crazy, I could just copy it and paste it in another browser so that, it's going to work. It's just going to, you know,
You can do that. That'll
yeah,
work.
sure you can. Sure. And
I
then I just have to get your most recent link. That's all.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send you a new one anytime you want. And oh, by the way, I live in the Apple ecosphere.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you text something on my phone, it shows up on the computer, and I can click on the link on the computer.
Got you.
So you're still not going to trade in all of your technology.
Listen, it's
No, you're not going to.
No, I'm not going to. There's so much new stuff coming out, which is a good thing that'll lead into what we're talking about. Um, you know,
There is. There's a lot of good
yeah.
things, and the Windows versus Macintosh uh, conflict and iPhone versus Android phone is a religious battle, which I got into. Actually, those are the first religious battles I got into were the technological ones because I was an early aficionado of Betamax. You remember that?
Yes, I do. I do.
So yeah, between Betamax and Macintosh and New Thought, I like tilting at windmills. So you want to tell me what we're going to talk about today, or you want to surprise me when we start the podcast episode?
No, I'll tell you, it's about releasing and trusting and receiving. So it's always so many dimensions to that. So whichever way we decide to go, it will be grand.
Release, trust, receive. In some order. All right, now I'm intrigued. So let's start the podcast so I can find out what you meant.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
Looking forward to another exciting conversation about New Thought as it applies to what Carol's thoughts have been over the course of the previous week. The podcast, we get together and we talk about what's on Carol's mind. And you give me a reframe on what we're talking about today, because I think I understood, but I don't think I can paraphrase you.
Oh, okay. So it's 3 thoughts that came to mind. Releasing, like letting go, and trusting and receiving. So it's kind of a sequence, and it makes sense sometimes, but when you're in the midst of whatever, and then I think it's just kind of a universal idea that I have. So that's what I want to talk about. Now, here's the thing. I'm always planning. So right now, December 1st, I'm in plan mode for 2026.
Okay.
And I will plan out the whole year by quarter. That's what I do.
Wow.
Done it forever, works like a charm, plenty of room to change. Okay, so, but then comes the idea of releasing. You can't, when you're planning your life or anything, you have to be able to give space to possibilities of change, possibilities that you may not be correct, possibilities of new ideas, all of that kind of stuff. So being in the position or holding the position of being able to let go and release and not feel like, oh my God, I got to, it has to be this way. And sometimes we don't let go of things because we don't have something to replace it with. Like, if I let this go, there's a trust issue there. I trust in my plan and what I was doing. So then that's what the trust piece was. And then finally, the third part of what I was thinking that was unraveling while I was thinking it is that trust, you have to evaluate what you're trusting in the first place. Right? Okay. So, we could say that the trust comes first, but usually it doesn't. Then receiving what comes from the trusting, from the trust. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I'm thinking of all sorts of examples in my head. And the one that is possibly the most dramatic or familiar that comes to mind is an NFL football game. Because when you're watching the football game, the quarterback goes in and he's got a plan. They know the play that they're calling, and they want this person to push that way and that person to push that way, and this guy's going to run over here, and then the quarterback's going to throw the ball to that one. And then everything starts moving. And that wonderful plan has every likelihood of going right out the window. Uh-oh. The other guys have done something unexpected, so now I have to change plans in the middle of this. And changing plans means releasing that plan of I thought I was going to be able to throw the ball, and now I got to jump over 6 guys and then run with the ball and hopefully not get completely demolished by really heavy guys jumping on top of me in an angry manner. And when we do that, when we go with the flow and move differently, then we receive the benefit of the change in plans in addition to all the value that we had from having a plan to begin with. So that's a very a colorful sports related example. The same thing happens in any sort of conflict. There's battles going on in various places all over the world, and they're thinking on their feet, and they're changing plans, and everybody's got a great strategy, but it turns into tactics, and what you do in operational activities might not be anything like what you had planned. And the same thing happens all the time. We're doing this podcast on a software platform on the internet, and the link to the program studio was in email, and Carol's email stopped working. Same thing. Okay, well, my email works, and this is the plan that I have. It's put together. Everything's supposed to happen. I get here into the studio at the appropriate time. It's not working. Now what do I do? Well, the first thing you do is let go of the plan. Because if you sit there saying, it should work this way, and it doesn't. So we need to do something else. So we let go of that and trust that a new plan is going to show up. And follow that guidance, and we get to step into whatever the new plan is. And, there's some trust. It's like, well, I really didn't want to type this gibberish word into my web browser.
Right.
But, if I trust the guidance that that's what's mine to do, then I can receive that experience that I was looking for, and it shows up in a different manner. So that process, that release, trust, receive is going on all the time. And there's another one that's even more personal. And as I was thinking about this, it's like, I'm really looking forward to this. So what I would like you and everybody who is within the sound of my voice to do is take a deep breath out, blow all of that air out, and hold your breath. You've just done a release. Now you did that trusting that there's going to be another breath. At some point, your body's going to say, take that breath and go ahead and breathe it in and receive. And be filled. And maybe that breath feels different than the other breaths. Maybe you notice that one a little bit more because it's part of the process, because you got to wait for it, because there was a release and a trust, an intentional release and trust that went on leading up to that. So that process that you notice is going on all the time. It's going on all the time. And the release part is the part that we're really bad at. we just tend to be not so good at releasing. I changed my clothes around from the summer clothes to the winter clothes, and and so I don't have enough room for all of the winter clothes that have been squirreled away in various places. So now there's a little stack of stuff that I get to release, and it's been out long enough that my wife has reminded me it's release time. And of course, the reason that I want to is because, well, I might need that. Well, okay, the reason it's in that stack is because you really don't. So go ahead and move it over to the thrift store. And trust that if there is something else necessary, the receive process is going to happen. And then it repeats the same way that one breath that we had in 1987 was not the be-all and end-all breath. There have been other breaths. They continue to be important. They're all important. And we're in a process. How was that for a soliloquy in response to your setup?
It's great. I love the analogies that you give and the examples because they're never the same ones that I have. So I like football. I love football. So I thought, okay, this is going to be a good one. So yeah, but there was something when I explained it. I said, the trust, there's something about the trust that has to be come first, but it's kind of fundamental because if I use this example that just happened to me with AOL, I my plan was to get on AOL. The link is already in the whatever you call that thing, and I just pasted
You
and
just
move.
click it.
I just
Yeah.
know how to do this. That's my plan. It's not working. So I said, okay, fine. I looked at it, just I said, wait a minute, what do I need to do here? Don't go on a wild goose chase. What do you need to do? So I instantly, which I usually do, I'll say, Spirit, come on, what we got to do? What's next? And when I said that the trusting part might be the first part, is because that's my go to. When I hit a snag, it's my go to. Spirit,
Hmm.
come on, because I have this belief that everything I need to know is within me. So I don't want to waste my time running around trying to figure stuff out. Look, Spirit, Bill Marchiony is waiting to hit the button. I got to get this.
Get my
I
finger
got to
right
get
here.
this. Right. I got to, and I did. I wish you could see. I wish there was a video rerun of this because I actually stopped what I was doing. It was like a freeze frame. Now what? And I just kind of waited, and I got kind of, different things. And then you sent me the link, and I said, all right. That's when I started getting frustrated because copying links, all you got to do is just, and you don't know how to fix it. You just got to start over. So the trusting, I think, is if it's easier to release if you know that you're not going to fall. There's a
Right.
safety net. Like, so for me, it's like Spirit is going to zero. I'm going to know something. I'm going to know. And yeah, so it could come on. That's the release and the trust are together. I don't think you can look at them separately.
Yeah, I think
Because
that the trust and the receiver together as well. And in fact, as you're talking about this, it's occurring to me that release, receive is the process, and trust is encompasses all of it. That all happens in a field of trust. You don't have to wait until you're done releasing to have trust, or you don't have to wait until you're done receiving to have trust. If you set that tone and that environment of trusting that everything is in its perfect place and unfolding in sweet perfection, then the releasing and the receiving become breathing.
yes, but there's a tiny but there
Of course.
because we feel like, and sometimes we are required to do something. I mean, we can release, but I released the idea that this AOL thing wasn't going to work. But I did have to do something. I
Hmm.
couldn't just sit there and wait. So I think that many times we are probably, not always, but faced with what's the next, what does Florence Scovel say? She calls it the next divine right step. What's the
Hmm.
next divine right step? What's the next thing that makes sense for me to do? And that's when I call upon that which I trust. So, it's release and receive is right. It is right, but I think the trust is very key in there
Yes.
because the trust brings about a certain level of calm and flow. I can relax because this will work. It will work. The worst thing that can happen is that I get there 15 minutes late, but this will work
Hmm.
because because I trust in technology.
Well, something's going to happen. And, it might not be exactly what we had in mind, but something is going to happen. And trust is being okay with the way that it happens, even if it's not the way that we planned. What's the saying about uh, we plan, God laughs?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like if we are not able to call an audible and change plans on the fly, then we've set ourselves up for disappointment.
We do. And I really thought that you were going to zero right in on the ego thing, because there's an ego thing that comes to play with the releasing. Sometimes I thought you're going to probably jump in on that one, but
All right,
yeah,
well, I tell you what, I will. Let's take a
the,
break.
the control freak part too.
Well,
Yeah.
you're a control freak emeritus, but there you still remember it. Let's take a break, and then we will come talk about what ego has to say about trust.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marchiony's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
We are talking about release and trust and receive, and we had turned the subject to ego, which I will translate into, what do you mean it's not going to go the way I said? What do you mean I have to change my plan? Because we get to be indignant because we put all this effort and attention and energy into planning something, and how dare the universe interfere with our stuff? What the hell?
It was a great plan.
Yeah. If not for the universe, this would have worked perfectly.
And on time, by the way.
Right, right. People have often remarked, because I do a lot of work with technology and groups, and there's a lot of online stuff, and the rules keep on changing, and stuff doesn't work. And for a while there were people who would come into Zoom meetings, to open Zoom meetings, just to make trouble. And I do these meditations online a dozen times a week. I've been there's close to 5,000 of them that I've been doing since the pandemic began. And over the course of time, there have been hooligans coming into these meetings, and I've gotten pretty calm about identifying them and then knowing what they're going to do next and then excusing them. And people get all alarmed. Oh my God, these people are in the meeting. What are you going to do? It's like, I'm going to kick them out. Well, can't you secure the Zoom and not the... Okay. The population is coming into this thing. If they can get their name entered properly into the Zoom meeting, that's a win. Having to authenticate so we only have the people who we want in the meeting, it's just going to mean a whole bunch of people who want to take part in these daily meditations won't be able to. So I'm not going to do that. So I came up with a metaphor for myself, which is of the church sanctuary. So, you leave the sanctuary unlocked because you want people to be able to come in and be in a peaceful and spiritual place and have some time. And if every once in a while somebody comes in who doesn't belong there and causes some trouble, then you have the security folks notice them and escort them out. So, we have a security camera in the Zoom room. we have a guy who can kick them out. There's not going to be any permanent damage, and a little disturbing from time to time, and it's just not a big deal. Mm-hmm. What's happened is because I got okay with that. When somebody new comes into the meeting, or I'm running the meeting for somebody else, and one of these people shows up, everybody is just completely flabbergasted that I'm so calm about just responding to it and knowing what to do and getting the person out of there and resuming with the meeting. And it's like, wow, how do you do that? And it's like, well, you practice. you practice, you get to the point where it's just muscle memory, you know what the plan is. And you get your ego self out of the way. Yeah, I'd prefer if that doesn't happen, but if it does, then I'm okay, and we'll do whatever's going to be next. Because the ego is valuable. It's important. It tells us the way that we want the meeting to go, or the situation, or the section of life, or the experience, whatever. And it is our trust that lets us change the plan and know that whatever the new plan is going to be as good as we could have imagined.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It takes you use the term muscle. It does take some time, because what did you call ego emeritus I am?
No, you're you're a control freak emeritus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
just to reframe this for the folks who might not have been here for all 200 and something episodes, when I first met Carol, lo, those many moons ago, she described herself as a card-carrying control freak. And knowing how this New Thought teaching works, and she was not new to it, but newer to it than other folks who I've dealt with. I've seen the arc before, and it's like, okay, that control freak thing doesn't last that long. But what I didn't say was, that's not going to work. I said, oh, okay. Good for you. Let me know how that goes. And at some point, I gave you a picture as a Christmas gift.
yes, I still have it.
Yes, of your voided, expired control freak card.
Yeah. I show that a lot. I use that and I show it a lot because I think it might sound like it's funny, but it's really it's a monumental lesson, because some people are not. First of all, you don't realize sometimes how strong that is, how rooted it might be in us. And actually, I thought about that this morning. I was thinking about how did this happen? It's because the way I was raised, my parents were working. And, my sister and my cousins would, for the summer, be at my house. And my mother she would leave so early, she'd leave a note on the dining room table. And these are the tasks that have to happen. Mm-hmm. And when I come home, and we knew this, there's no discussion. It just all has to be done. Or there's a different kind of problem. Mm-hmm. So my cousin, who was older, she taught me this just by doing it. She said, look, we got to make this happen. We got to make this happen. And that meant whatever you had to do, control, whatever, get it done. And so that's rooted, in me. And you got to come up with all kind of creative ways sometimes to get these things done before 4:45, when my little tiny short mother came around the corner and the fear of God came if you didn't have it done. So being in control, and the idea of letting that go didn't feel safe. Mm-hmm. But then, you can recalibrate, I guess, and say that, okay, well, there is something bigger than me. And that's spirit, or that's God, whatever.
No.
And so, all right, let me try it. Let me see. I know God, moves mountains. I know God heals diseases, but is God going to give me the information that I need? Can I trust before my mother gets home and I got to deal with somebody that wields something stronger than God? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So you got to make a shift. And it's okay. It takes a minute, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it comes down to trusting the process. And the process is that there is an infinite creative power, a divine mind, an infinite presence that's doing everything. And it's doing it in part through and as us, and in part through and as other people and elements and agency in the universe. But there's still that one that's behind all of it. And when we trust that one is unfolding the situation in a way that's going to bring harmony and uplift to us and to everyone around us, we can let go of the thought that we need to control all of that. Yeah. So, in the discussion of ego, we all know it is the Father within who does the work, or doeth his works. And that means that this is all the divine acting through us. And people are usually willing to acknowledge that, sometimes a little bit, and sometimes a lot. But when the deciding what the plan is going to be, it is the Father within who decides what's going to happen. It's like some people say, well, I don't think so. I already have a plan. I don't need to go lift anything, but man, this should go the way I say.
So God, just bless my plan. Right?
Exactly. Just, So to paraphrase, and this is why it doesn't work, God, just do what I say. It's like, really? And you think that's going to work? Get back to me on that one, too. I had the opportunity to meet Walter Starkey. He came to Philadelphia. It was actually his last visit to Philly before he passed. And the thing that he was talking about in this wonderful presentation he did is trust the process. There's a process that's going on. And when we let go of our attachment to what the outcome is going to be and trust the process, then we open to all sorts of possibilities. It might not go the way that we thought it was going to go. The steps may not be revealed in the order that we wanted, or there might be things that are missing. Mm-hmm. There might be parts that completely get glossed over. Well, what happened to my Academy Award on the way to living happily ever after? The important part is that when we let go of our attachment and trust the process, it is possible that the happily ever after is going to be much happier than it would have been otherwise. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to be in partnership with the Father within, with that divine presence within. And that's where the trusting thing comes in. The more we can be aware of our connection with the divine creative power that creates everything, the more likely it is that the rest of the stuff is going to come together okay. And it is no coincidence that that is the second step in a practical prayer. And we've been over this before, but since it's called the Practical Prayer Podcast, I might as well mention it again. That after we have an idea of what it is that we want to experience in our life, we start the prayer by turning our attention to the infinite, to that infinite creative power, the one that creates everything. It's God, it's the divine, it's nature, it's the source, it's the Big Bang, it's wherever all of this stuff came from. And the first step is to recognize that infinite power. We look to the divinity. And the divinity is everything that exists around us, and the divinity exists within. The second step is to understand, since there is only that one divine power and presence, that abides within. All of the good that I'm describing as that infinite creative power is part of me as well. And it is that second step, that unification step, where we realize and understand and accept and claim our unity with that infinite creative power, that the trust comes in. Because if in fact I am part of that one divine creative power, then I'm creating this next new experience in partnership with the infinite. And so whatever it is that I'm claiming as I move further into the prayer, that's going to be happening. I get to let go of what's happened up until now. That's the release that we're talking about. And I get to receive the good that I'm seeking. And that all happens in the framework of that second step, of that trusting that creative, that divine presence is me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's a big step. Mm-hmm. Because it's unfamiliar. And it's just the way we see God. You know, I call it God's geographical location. It's where if you see God out there, which is quite normal, you know, in terms of theological understanding traditionally, then it takes quite a lot to imagine, just imagine that big God that's out there somewhere is close enough for me to trust in the moment, you know. And so that's just a big step. If you see God the way, you know, God is within, okay, I use myself for example. I feel like God is right there. Okay, so what are we going to do next? Mm-hmm. What do I need to do next?
Yep.
But it didn't happen overnight. You know, I had to deconstruct my belief system of God being out there. But then that requires another level of trust. Mm-hmm. That this something new is something worth giving some attention to. But you used a good word, I think. You said trust the process.
Yep. That was Walter's word, but I'll take credit.
So you ask yourself, okay, so what is the process that's going on here? And you have to include God at some point in this process, but it's up to you where to put God in the process. And when you do that, if God is out there somewhere, your process might get stuck. You know, because you got to figure out, God's got to figure out whether God wants to even be bothered with you. but, but if God is in you, God is in it.
Right,
Something is going to happen. If I
right.
just chill a little bit, something's going to happen. So,
Yeah, there are two observations that I have there, and the first is something that I have learned from you, which is that it is much easier to live our lives with a God out there, because when things don't go the way that we want them to do, we can just say, "Well, it's God didn't want it to,"
mhm.
and it is much easier. We don't have that personal accountability. It's like, oh, okay. In New Thought, we say that that you experience your life according to your beliefs. And then people say, well, how do I know what I believe? It's like, look at your life. Your life is a life-size topographical map, one-to-one scale of your belief system. You want to know what you believe? Look at your life. Don't like the way your life is going? There's probably something in your belief that's hidden or blocked or in the way or can be shifted and changed. But saying, oh, well, this is just the way my map looks and it's the fault of a map maker out there. It takes us off the hook. It makes us feel like we're not accountable for what it is that we're experiencing, but it also takes a huge amount of power away from us because we're giving it away. We're saying, well, the answer might be no. And if I have a hidden belief that it's going to be no, then that's where it stays.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, and it's our belief that's putting God out there and then blaming it.
And there's another thing that goes along with that, and I seem like I always get back to this. It's fear, because what if God out there doesn't see me worthy as intervening, or in my affairs? Then what the heck is going to happen to me now?
Hmm.
What am I going to do? So there's a lot of fear, and I didn't even talk about the fear in my little 3 point thought here. But yeah, I think that fear is a terribly serious thing to consider in the trust,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, fear is what keeps us from engaging in the process.
Hmm.
Fear
Hmm.
is the opposite of trust in this case. Okay, can I trust that the infinite is gonna turn this out? If I let go of the trapeze, can I trust that there will be another trapeze for me to grab onto before the ground comes rushing up at me? There's a lot of trust there,
Hmm.
and the fear will keep us gripping onto that first bar. And on the one hand, we're staying safe. On the other hand, we're not making any progress. And we are part of the process. So when we're trusting the process and we've done our work, and the time comes to release, we get to do that and sail merrily into whatever that next new experience is going to be, even if we're not completely sure the details of how it looks.
There's yes, we trust the process. It's what you think about God. Is God, am I good enough? That's the worthiness part that you talked about before.
Yep.
Am I good enough that God will even consider intervening here? So it's a lot to work with, and a lot to unravel. I'm real sensitive to that, because if you don't get it, you keep coming back to the same place. You keep making the same mistake, which only convinces you that you're a real jerk and God really doesn't want to be bothered with you. So it's so it's
Wow.
well, listen,
I know.
why
I know. It was blunt,
it's a
but right on.
That's why I think, I love the practical prayer, or you know the first part is really anchoring in on God. Once you get that, the rest flows. You just like, well, the rest just flows. You can get it all. You could always go back to say, God, listen, I'm confused. Could you just clear this up? But if
Yep.
you don't have that place to go to, then what happens? Well,
Well, then it's the scary part about the ego. Because if we need to figure it out on our own and we have discounted the possibility that there's an infinite intelligence that's helping us, we're really on our own.
yeah,
There might be
yeah.
people in the neighborhood with their own vested interest about what should happen next, in which case, game on. Let's take another break, and then we're going to do a practical prayer, and it's going to be on worthiness. Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer. Recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
Been having a wonderful conversation about the process of trust, release, and receive, and how the trust piece is sometimes undermined by our own fear, and our ego tells us we can't trust anything out there, so we have to do it ourselves. And then if we're doing it all ourselves, maybe we don't need to release because we might not receive, and then game on.
Wrapped it up really good.
Yeah, and the point, Carol, that you made earlier is the fear, and mostly the fear is that I'm not worthy, that I don't deserve this good experience, this good life that I have envisioned, that maybe that God power out there thinks that I should have something less than, that other people deserve the goods and I don't. So this practical prayer is claiming our worthiness. And the affirmation, the realization step, is I am worthy. And the reason that's so important is because a lot of us have doubt about whether or not we're worthy. Louise Hay and the thousands of people who she worked with doing healing prayer discovered that just about everybody, the core belief was, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve the good that I'm seeking. And she's pretty good at this. And 100% is a pretty meaningful percentage. So I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that perhaps there's a feeling of unworthiness for the people who are listening to this prayer. And the way that we deal with that is not to argue with it and not to be belligerent about it. The way that we do that is to turn our awareness to that infinite creative power, that divine presence, that limitless love that shares itself as all of its creation. In the beginning there was darkness and void and God. And God said, let there be. And that creative law responded, and there is. And the scripture says God said, let there be light, and there was light. And then God said, let there be lots of other things, and there was that. The important part is that's the process. Let there be, and there is. And if we look at the Big Bang, or any other creation story, it's the same thing. In the beginning there was the One, and the One started moving upon itself and created something new, and that newness is and continues to be and continues to evolve and unfold. And the important part there is that everything that exists everywhere throughout this manifest universe, 14.2 billion light years across as we currently measure it, is an individualized expression of that One. That includes me. That includes each one within the sound of my voice. And knowing that we are all that one means that we are all as worthy of the good that we are claiming as the infinite was when it said, let there be. We say, let there be with the same authority, that same divine creative power at our disposal. So any idea of a lack of worthiness of anyone who's listening to this prayer is made up. It's manufactured. It is a shadow that's obstructing the shining of the light. It has nothing to do with the light itself. That blockage can come from all sorts of different sources, but it's all temporary and artificial. Because the truth is, as divine expressions of that infinite presence, we are all worthy. The affirmation is, I am worthy. So I invite you to say that to yourself. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. Anything that stands in the way of that idea is a falsehood, and I let it go back to the nothingness from which it came. I am worthy. That same thing is true of each of us. I am worthy. And I'm grateful to know that this is the case. I'm grateful to know that this divine creative power that creates everything is responding to my conscious intention and to the conscious intention of each one listening to this prayer. As we claim that worthiness, knowing I am worthy, that infinite creative power is activated, begins creating this newness for us. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the good. I'm grateful for the willingness of each one here to engage in this process. I'm grateful to be able to speak this word and release it into that creative law that creates everything. And know that that worthiness is unfolding right now, as and through and for each of us. And I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
That is the Practical Prayer Podcast, episode number 224 on New Thought Media Network. Thank you, Carol.
Great conversation.
Yeah, wonderful topic. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Released, trust, and receive. Not necessarily in that order.
I like that.
Oh, and thank you to everybody who's joining us on New Thought Media Network. It is wonderful to have you here in the pre and post show of the recording session. As mentioned, if you want to put a comment in, you can do so, and we will respond in real time. And if you want to go to the website, which is BeTheLight.com, there it is, be-the-light.com, then you can go over there. And there's a section on Practical Prayer Podcast, and you can put in your comments there as well, and we will respond offline. Carol, thank you so much. This has been spectacular, and you and me and the technology will all zero back in again here next time.
I'm cutting and pasting the link, so I'm good.
You get to learn some new stuff. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
See you.